The morning mist clung to the Afghan mountains like smoke from a dying fire when Chief Petty Officer Raven Ghost Morrow first spotted the anomaly. Her German shepherd, Kodiak, had stopped dead in his tracks, ears pricked forward toward something that shouldn't exist in this desolate valley. 3 clicks northeast of Firebase Anvil, where no aircraft should be, sat the skeletal remains of what appeared to be a CH-47 Chinook helicopter. But this wasn't just any crash site. The bird sat upright, rotors folded back as if it had landed intentionally. No scorch marks, no debris field, just pristine desert camouflage paint job gleaming dully in the pre-dawn light like it had materialized from thin air overnight. Raven's weathered hands moved instinctively to her comm unit. Anvil Base, Ghost 77. I've got eyes on an unidentified rotary wing aircraft. Grid reference November Victor 4782 Alpha. Request immediate intelligence sweep on any missing birds in this sector. The crackling response carried undertones of confusion. Ghost 77, negative on any authorized aircraft in your vicinity. Can you confirm aircraft type and condition? Affirmative. Anvil appears to be a Chinook tail number. Standby. She adjusted her scope, squinting through the morning haze. The tail boom bore markings she'd never seen before, a series of numbers that didn't match any standard military designation system she knew. Anvil, tail shows 77 Kilo X-ray 999. That mean anything to you? Long pause. Too long. When voices came back across the radio, it wasn't the familiar drawl of Staff Sergeant Martinez from communications. Ghost 77, this is Colonel Vasquez. Maintain position and await further instructions. Do not repeat, do not approach the aircraft. Raven's jaw tightened. In 12 years of military service, including 8 as a Navy SEAL, she'd learned to trust her instincts. And right now, every instinct screamed that something was monumentally wrong. Kodiak's low growl confirmed it. The dog's hackles had risen, his intelligent brown eyes fixed on the helicopter with predatory intensity. She'd earned her call sign, Ghost, not just for her ability to move unseen through enemy territory, but for her uncanny talent of appearing where she wasn't supposed to be and finding things that weren't supposed to exist. Command had learned to respect her recommendations, even if they didn't always appreciate her methods. Colonel, with respect, that bird's been here less than 12 hours. Ground still soft under the landing gear. Whatever happened, it happened recently. Understood. Ghost 77. Maintain visual contact. Reinforcements inbound, ETA 20 mics. 20 minutes. In the Afghan mountains, 20 minutes might as well be 20 hours. Raven studied the helicopter through her binoculars, noting details that made her skin crawl. The cargo bay doors stood slightly ajar, revealing nothing but impenetrable darkness within. The morning sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the valley floor like fingers reaching toward secrets that perhaps should have remained buried. Raven checked her M4 carbine one more time, though she suspected bullets might be useless against whatever lay waiting in that mysterious aircraft. Kodiak's ears suddenly swiveled toward their 6 o'clock. Something was approaching from behind. In the distance, she could hear the distinctive thrum of rotor blades cutting through mountain air. But the sound was wrong, too quiet, too smooth. Modern military helicopters announced themselves with aggressive mechanical thunder. This sounded almost stealthy. Anvil Base, Ghost 77. I've got inbound aircraft from the south. Can you confirm friendly traffic? Static answered her, then more static. Her blood ran cold as she realized her communications had been cut. In 12 years of operations, she'd never experienced a complete comm blackout during active reconnaissance. The timing felt deliberate, coordinated. She was alone now, 3 miles from the nearest friendly position, with a mysterious helicopter ahead of her and unknown aircraft approaching from behind. Kodiak pressed against her leg, sensing the shift in her energy. His training told him to prepare for combat, but his instincts warned him this situation transcended normal warfare parameters. Raven made a decision that would haunt her for years to come. Instead of retreating toward Firebase Anvil, she began moving forward, using natural rock formations for concealment. Whatever secrets that Chinook contained, she intended to discover them before anyone else arrived to sanitize the scene. The approaching aircraft grew louder, but she couldn't identify the type. It moved with mechanical precision that seemed almost too perfect, like a machine designed by engineers who'd never experienced the controlled chaos of actual combat operations. As she closed the distance to the abandoned helicopter, Kodiak suddenly froze. His nose twitched, catching a scent that made him back away instinctively. Raven had seen him react to explosives, chemical weapons, and decomposing bodies without flinching. Whatever waited inside that aircraft was something entirely different. She reached the cargo bay doors just as the mysterious aircraft crested the ridgeline behind her. Through a gap in the doors, she glimpsed something that defied rational explanation. Row upon row of weapon systems she'd never encountered in any military catalog, gleaming with technology that seemed decades beyond current battlefield capabilities. Her hands shook as she pulled the doors wider. The arsenal inside was vast, organized with military precision, and completely alien to anything in the current American weapons inventory. Each device bore the same mysterious markings she'd seen on the helicopter's tail, symbols that seemed to shift and blur when she tried to focus on them directly. "What the hell?" she whispered, her voice barely audible above the approaching aircraft. Kodiak whined softly, his training warring with instincts that screamed danger. The sound of boots hitting desert sand behind her made her spin around, weapon raised. But instead of enemy combatants or friendly reinforcements, she found herself facing three figures in black tactical gear, bearing no identifying patches or insignia. Their faces were hidden behind advanced optical equipment she'd never seen before. "Chief Morrow," one of them spoke, his voice carrying an accent she couldn't place. "You have discovered something that officially does not exist." The lead figure raised a device that looked like a cross between a tablet and a weapon scanner. As he pointed it toward the helicopter, the mysterious markings on both the aircraft and the arsenal began to glow with soft blue light. Kodiak backed away, fur standing on end, issuing a low growl that seemed to come from his very soul. "You have 30 seconds to explain what you found here," the figure continued, "before we implement containment protocols." Raven's mind raced. 12 years of military experience had taught her to assess threats quickly and respond accordingly. These weren't enemy combatants, but they weren't friendly forces either. They moved with precision that suggested special operations training, but their equipment was beyond anything she'd encountered in classified briefings. "I found an abandoned aircraft with an unknown weapons cache," she replied carefully, keeping her M4 trained on the lead figure. "Standard reconnaissance protocol." "There is nothing standard about this situation, Chief." The figure's tone carried a mixture of respect and warning. "This aircraft and its contents represent technology that your security clearance level cannot comprehend." The glowing symbols pulsed brighter, casting eerie shadows across the valley walls. Inside the helicopter, the weapon systems began emitting a barely audible hum that seemed to resonate in her bones. Kodiak's agitation increased, his training to remain silent warring with instincts that demanded he warn his handler of imminent danger. "Who are you?" Raven demanded, noting how the figures moved with coordinated precision that suggested extensive shared operational experience. "What's your unit designation?" "We are the people who clean up messes that threaten global security equilibrium," the lead figure replied. "And you, Chief Morrow, have stumbled into the middle of our biggest cleanup operation in 20 years. The humming from the weapons systems grew louder, more insistent. The blue glow from the symbols began spreading across the helicopter's hull like living light, revealing details in the aircraft's construction that defied current engineering capabilities. Panels she hadn't noticed before began sliding open, revealing additional compartments filled with devices that seemed to blur the line between technology and something else entirely. Raven's training told her to retreat, call for backup, follow established protocols for encountering unknown enemy assets. But her instincts told her that retreat might mean these secrets would disappear forever, buried under layers of classification that would prevent anyone from understanding what she discovered. "I need to report this to my commanding officer," she said firmly. "Your commanding officer has already been briefed," the figure replied. "Colonel Vasquez is en route with a full containment team. You have approximately 15 minutes to decide whether you want to be part of the solution or part of the problem." The aircraft approaching from behind finally came into view, a sleek, angular machine that moved with impossible silence considering its size. It bore no military markings she recognized, its surface seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. As it settled into a landing position 50 meters away, Raven realized she was witnessing technology that officially didn't exist. Three more figures emerged from the strange aircraft, moving with the same coordinated precision as the first team. They carried equipment that looked like standard military gear, but felt fundamentally different, heavier, more purposeful, designed for situations that transcended normal combat parameters. "Chief Morrow," the lead figure continued, "your service record indicates exceptional competence in unconventional warfare situations. We have a proposition for you." Kodiak's growling intensified. The dog's instincts had kept Raven alive through countless dangerous operations, and she'd learned to trust his judgment implicitly. But this situation demanded decisions that went beyond survival instincts. Whatever these people represented, they possessed resources and capabilities that dwarfed anything she'd encountered in conventional military operations. The weapons systems inside the helicopter pulsed again, their humming now clearly audible across the valley. The sound seemed to resonate with something deep in the mountain bedrock, creating harmonics that made her teeth ache. Whatever technology powered these devices, it operated on principles she couldn't begin to comprehend. "What kind of proposition?" she asked, knowing that her answer would determine not just her immediate survival, but the trajectory of her entire future military career. "The kind that requires you to forget everything you think you know about modern warfare," the figure replied, his tone carrying undertones of respect mixed with barely controlled urgency. "And learn to see conflicts through perspectives that extend far beyond national boundaries." The mysterious aircraft behind her powered down with a sound like wind through steel cables. In the sudden relative quiet, she could hear Colonel Vasquez's helicopters approaching from the direction of Firebase Anvil. Whatever decision she made, she had perhaps 5 minutes before the situation became completely out of her control. Raven looked at Kodiak, whose intelligent eyes met hers with complete trust. In that moment, she realized that some discoveries were too important to be buried under conventional military classification systems. Some secrets demanded guardians who understood that loyalty to country sometimes meant protecting truths that transcended political boundaries. "I'm listening," she said quietly, lowering her weapon but keeping it ready. Around them, the mountain valley seemed to hold its breath, as if the very landscape understood that history was about to pivot on decisions made in the shadow of an impossible aircraft filled with weapons that challenged everything she thought she knew about the nature of human conflict. The lead figure nodded slowly, recognizing something in her response that satisfied whatever test she'd unknowingly been taking. "Welcome to Project Midnight Sun, Chief Morrow. Your real war is about to begin." The sound of Colonel Vasquez's approaching helicopters grew louder, carrying with it the familiar chaos of conventional military operations. But Raven sensed that her days of conventional warfare were rapidly coming to an end. Whatever Project Midnight Sun represented, it operated in shadows that stretched far beyond the Afghan mountains, dealing with threats that required warriors capable of thinking beyond traditional strategic parameters. As the first of Vasquez's aircraft crested the ridgeline, the mysterious figures began moving with practiced efficiency. Within seconds, the glowing weapon systems were covered, the strange markings dimmed, and the impossible aircraft behind her simply disappeared as if it had never existed at all. "Remember, Chief," the lead figure said as he began backing toward concealment, "some wars are fought to protect the very idea of peace itself. Your country needs soldiers who understand that distinction." The last thing she saw before Colonel Vasquez's helicopters dominated the valley was Kodiak's calm acceptance of their new reality. The dog seemed to understand, better than she did, that they had just crossed a threshold from which there could be no return. In the months that followed, Raven would learn that Project Midnight Sun operated in the spaces between official military operations and absolute necessity. The weapons she discovered were just the beginning tools designed to combat threats that existed in the shadows of global consciousness, enemies that moved through weaknesses in humanity's collective understanding of reality itself. But in that moment, standing beside an impossible helicopter in a valley that officially didn't exist, surrounded by technology that challenged everything she thought she knew about warfare, Raven Ghost, Morrow made a decision that would define the rest of her military career. She chose to become a guardian of secrets too important to remain hidden, a warrior in conflicts that transcended national boundaries. The war she'd spent 12 years training for had just ended. The war she was born to fight was about to begin. And in the shadow of the Afghan mountains, with Kodiak at her side and mysteries unfolding around her like storm clouds gathering on an infinite horizon, Chief Petty Officer Raven Morrow took her first step into a darkness that would either destroy her or forge her into something the world desperately needed, but could never officially acknowledge. Colonel Vasquez's helicopters settled into landing formations around the valley, their crews preparing for a cleanup operation that would erase all evidence of what she'd discovered. But the knowledge would remain, hidden in classified files, and protected by warriors who understood that some truths were too dangerous for public consumption and too important to abandon entirely. Her real war had begun, and she had no idea where it would lead. The arsenal inside the mysterious Chinook would be cataloged, studied, and ultimately integrated into weapon systems that officially didn't exist. The technology would find its way into operations conducted by soldiers who, like her, had discovered that defending freedom sometimes required understanding threats that challenged the very foundations of human civilization. Years later, when other soldiers stumbled across similar anomalies in distant theaters of operation, they would find themselves facing the same choice she'd confronted in that Afghan valley. Some would retreat into the comfort of conventional thinking. Others would step forward into uncertainty, guided by the understanding that some secrets were worth protecting with their lives. Raven Ghost Morrow had chosen to step forward. In doing so, she joined a brotherhood of warriors who fought not just for their countries, but for the continued existence of a world where concepts like countries, freedom, and human dignity could continue to have meaning. The helicopter would be removed within hours. The valley would return to its ancient silence. But the knowledge of what was possible, what existed beyond the boundaries of official acknowledgement, would remain with those who'd proven worthy of carrying such burdens. Her war had begun, and somewhere in the shadows of global security operations, other warriors like her were preparing for battles that would determine whether humanity's future would be written by those who sought to protect it or by those who saw it as something to be conquered and controlled. The arsenal she discovered was just one piece of a puzzle that stretched across continents and decades. But every puzzle required someone to place the first piece, to see patterns where others saw only chaos. Chief Petty Officer Raven Ghost, Morrow had placed her peace. The rest would follow, guided by necessity and protected by warriors who understood that some victories could never be celebrated publicly, but had to be won nonetheless. In the silence that followed the departure of the mysterious aircraft, Kodiak settled beside his handler with the calm acceptance of a warrior who'd found his true calling. Together, they would guard secrets that challenged understanding and fight battles that existed in the spaces between official acknowledgement and absolute necessity. Their war had begun, and the world, unknowing and protected by their sacrifice, would continue spinning through space, defended by guardians who moved through shadows to ensure that light could continue to exist.